Hi guys. Some time ago I did a missions trip to Bosnia. I was really looking forward to going to Bosnia. My friend Mike was leading it, and I was a bit younger at the time. And just one of the things that struck me was how excited I was about being somewhere new and seeing a different environment. And at the same time, there were some aspects of the trip that were a bit scary. Some of the borders that we had to cross, we had to get into arguments with the border patrol because they were trying to encourage us to give them money to allow us to pass, and things were getting quite antagonistic. And there were times where, I will be honest, I was a little bit afraid. The thing that kept me from being totally terrified was the fact that I was with Mike and he had done this trip so many times before and he'd interacted with these people so many times before, and he always carried that sense of confidence, exuded that sense of confidence that said, it's going to be okay, we'll work this out. It's interesting because John chapter 14 is what we're looking at today. And there are two occasions where Jesus says the same thing in this chapter. In John chapter 14 verse 1, he says, do not let your hearts be troubled. And then all the way at the end of the same chapter in verse 27, at the end of verse 27, he says, do not let your hearts be troubled. But in the middle of this chapter, in verse 16, 17, and 18, he explains that he's going away. He's talking to his disciples. He explains that he's going to go away, but the Father would send another like him, a comforter, the Spirit, who would not just be with them, but be in them. And I think that's the key to recognizing why Jesus was saying to his disciples, and why I believe he would say to us today as well, do not let your hearts be troubled. It isn't that you sit down and say, don't be afraid, don't be afraid, don't be afraid, over and over again until the fear goes. We don't have to do that. What we have to remember is that the Holy Spirit is with us and in us. And because of that, we can respond to Jesus when he says, do not be afraid. We can say, yes, Holy Spirit, will you help me with my fear? Will you help me to give my fear to you? And will you replace that fear in me with faith? The fact that Jesus says, do not let your hearts be troubled, suggests that there is a sense of responsibility that we have, that we can choose to let our hearts be troubled, to be afraid, or not to be afraid. So, my prayer for us today as we read chapter 14 is that we'll be reminded that the Holy Spirit lives in us and is with us, and that we do not have to be afraid. I want to close with just this phrase that the Amplified Version uses at the end of verse 27. It says this, let my perfect peace calm you in every circumstance and give you courage and strength for every challenge. God bless you.